So today, guys, we're going to be running through the general timetable of a school day. We're going to be looking in a lot more detail of what happens from when the children come into school to when the children leave at the end of the day. There will be other videos coming out going into much more detail about each individual lesson, such as the English period or the maths period, and definitely some about the foundation topics. But for now, this will just be a general timetable of what happens from 9 o'clock, well, just before 9 till the end of the day at 3 or just 3:30, depending on which school you're at. And we will have a look at what children do inside each lesson. So again, this is something I'm probably going to highlight in every single video I make. Every single school is different. There's no way we can get around that. And there's no right way of doing it. All the schools teach in different ways. And to be honest, I think that's a good thing, because if every school was the same, then there'd be no difference. It'd be very boring for teachers, and it allows teachers to have a bit more expression about the way that they're going to teach. So you'll find at school, children will be coming in any time between around about 8:45 to 9 o'clock. That'll be when the doors open and children start walking into the classroom. This will go on till generally either the first lesson starts or when there's an assembly, if they have an assembly that day, or in the morning. This 15 or 20 minute period, as I've mentioned before, is vital for the children to get settled and set up for the day. Most classrooms will have some sort of visual timetable on the board or on one of the walls, so the children know what they're going to be doing that day. It's a time for them to hand in any letters, make sure they brought their PKit to school, put their packed lunches on the trolley, sort out their dinners. As I've said before, my class do it on the board as they walk into the classroom, and make sure they are ready. I'll always try and make sure I've got some sort of activity for the children to do. This can range from doing some corrections on the work they did the previous day. It can be making sure they're doing some reading and catching up on looking at the planners and who's read recently at home. It can be more fun activities, something they might be doing in pairs together when they come in and sit down. Anything to try and engage the children as soon as they've sat down and got them working hard as soon as possible. Once the children are in, it's time to do the register. Every school does a register in the morning and the afternoon, and this just makes sure all the children are in, and if there's a fire emergency, then we know which children are in and which children we need to make sure are out safely. Once the register's been taken, if your school has an assembly in the morning, this will generally when it will be. Some schools have them in the afternoon, which will generally take place once the register's been done after lunch break. Once the children are into assembly, again, some schools are different. Some schools have it where the children and the teachers all go into assembly. Other schools have just some teachers that go in and other teachers stay in their classrooms to get ready for the morning, and they might do it on a rota system. Once the assembly has finished, then this will be the period where the lessons start for real, from roughly 9:15 or 9:30, all the way up until morning break, which is somewhere around 10:30, 11:15. This is where the children will be doing their first of the core lessons generally, either maths or English. Again, different schools might do this differently, but that's what I've experienced most in all the schools I've worked at. If we pick English for starters, then English is something that's made up of all sorts of different lessons. So inside English, we have grammar work you have to do, you have reading work you have to do, you might have a focus on some handwriting, you'll definitely do some comprehension work, and you will do some writing. Now, obviously, to fit all these into one lesson is quite hard, so you need to make sure all the different areas are linked together. So if they've got different books for each topic, so like grammar, reading, handwriting, English, then they link together well, and that you can move from one book to the next book in a relatively quick amount of time, so you're not wasting a huge amount of time giving out books, taking books back in all lesson. Now, you might be bored of me saying this already, but I'm going to say it again. All schools are different. Not every school will teach English like that. From my experience, schools do a mixture of these. Some schools have a focus on just reading, some schools have a focus on writing, and it changes from school to school. But you will find combinations of these across every school, because obviously all the children have to learn the different parts of grammar. They have to learn to read and to understand their work. They have to learn the comprehension, and they have to be excellent writers to write the different pieces of work that they are required to in primary school. Once this lesson's done, then this will be the time for morning break. This is where children go outside generally for about 15 minutes and get some fresh air, freshen their minds up, get some exercise, make sure they're ready to come back in and continue lessons. And again, schools run break times differently. Some schools have it where the teachers and the teaching assistants go out together to monitor break time. Some schools just use the teaching assistants. Some schools have staff that come in from outside school and volunteers to come and help at break times and dinner times. You'll have to talk to your school and work out when you're applying to one what they will do and how it will work. So once the children come back in from break time, it's time for the second core lesson. Again, some schools don't do the core lessons in the morning, but generally they do. So this time we'll look at maths and see what happens in a maths lesson. Just important to mention that I will be bringing out videos in the future on the maths and the English lessons and go into a lot more detail on what kind of things are involved in them. So if you're reading this in the future, when this has been out for a little while, then have a look at my channel and I'm sure you'll find them. I will try to come back and link them into this video around my head right now. Just as a quick mention now, I will be bringing out videos in the future to go into a lot more detail on what happens in maths and English lessons in the primary school. Again, these will be a bit more general, as obviously all schools will do them differently, but there'll be a mixture of what I've seen and what I've spoken to other teachers about, and I'll make sure when I do bring those out to link them into this video so you can find them nice and easily. So generally the math lesson will take place from the end of morning break all the way up till lunchtime. This will be a chance for children to practice the different areas of maths. If they're doing their times tables, then they'll generally be a little bit on times tables before they focus on the next topic of maths that they are looking at. Again, depending on which scheme your school uses, some schools will just focus on one area of maths for a week or maybe 2 weeks. Other schools will use a little bit one day, a little bit in the next day, and then jump around a bit and make sure they're coming back to each topic regularly to get that deep embedded knowledge. Once maths is done, then it is time for lunch break. Lunch breaks are generally 45 minutes to an hour, and again, it's a big period of time where children get outside, get some fresh air in their lungs, get some exercise, and refresh their brains ready for the afternoon. Some schools will have clubs on at lunchtime for children to take part in. Other schools will save their clubs till after school once all the rest of the children have gone home. So again, that's something you have to talk to your school about and see what their policy is on clubs. And again, just like break time, different schools work differently, but some schools will have teachers outside watching the kids at break time, talking to them, getting to know them a bit more. Other schools will have teachers and teaching assistants. Other schools might just have teaching assistants, and some schools will have staff in, volunteers from outside school to help as well. All these different methods work in different ways, and it's just, again, up to you to talk to your school that you might be applying to or working at already, and seeing what do you like your method. Maybe drop a comment down below on what method your school uses, and talk to some other teachers that have also commented on how their methods work, what do you think the benefits are, the disadvantages. Maybe bring some changes to your school if you think there's some improvements you can make. Once the dinner break is finished, the children will come back into class, and this is where they get registered for the second time that day. This is just to make sure, again, that all the children that were in school this morning are still there, and if anyone has gone home, the teachers are aware that they've gone home and they know the reasons behind it. Once the children have been registered, then they'll go into their foundation lessons, and so the afternoon is again the time that most schools will have their foundation lessons, so their geography, history, ICT, PE, RE, those sorts of lessons. It's often the time as well that schools will make sure if they've got any big art and DT projects, and the children will be focusing on these in the afternoons and making sure these are done to the best of their abilities. Depending on how your school works, some schools have companies in to do PE lessons for them. Other schools, the teachers take PE lessons themselves, and again, this is something you'll have to talk to your school about and see what you are doing. Again, have a chat to the teachers down below in the comments, look up on Twitter and on my Facebook page, see how other teachers are working their PE lessons, what kind of things could you do. I know it's something I always want to evolve my teaching in PE, so hopefully you guys will want to do the same. The afternoon foundation lessons will generally run from around about 1 o'clock to around about 3 o'clock. The timings can change slightly depending on your school, but roughly 2 hours. Generally, teachers will try and fit in around about 2 foundation lessons in this time, an hour on each, and that is generally enough time to make sure that they've focused on the different national objective points that they need to hit in those lessons. Personally, I try to make sure that if I'm looking at a geography topic at the time, then I'll do about a week of geography to make sure I'm hitting the right objectives to a quality standard for the children before we move on to another thing such as history or DT. These can go over to longer than almost 2 weeks. It just depends on the topic we're doing and the piece of work at the end of the topic that we are wanting to create. Finally, at around about 3 o'clock, the children will go home. And as I've said before in my other video, A Day in the Life for a Primary School Teacher, the time after school is the most important time to get focused on the different jobs teachers have to do once the kids have gone home. So make sure you go have a look at that video to see what teachers do after school. I just want to say halfway through this video now that if you are interested more in the day of life for a primary school teacher and the types of things that go on before and after school as well as during the school day, then make sure you check out this video that I've made about a day in the life of a primary school teacher in the UK. It gives you lots of helpful tips and advice, and as always, Please comment, like and subscribe. I want to hear any questions you guys have got, any comments you want to make, any questions you've got about the life of a school teacher. For those teachers out there watching this, I want to hear if you're from the UK, how is this similar or different to your day as a primary school teacher? And for those people from outside of the UK, I'd love to hear about what you've got to say. How is that different from the way you teach in maybe America, Australia, around Europe? It'd be really interesting to see the similarities and differences that you guys can share. I hope it's been informative and that this video has helped you to understand what is going on in a primary school teacher's day in the timetable sense. Hopefully it's been a great help, and if it has, please drop a like, subscribe to see any more teacher related content. Let me know down the bottom, what do you want to know about being a primary school teacher? What type of things would you like to see me to make videos on in the future?